Flourishing high-technology companies are vital to economic prosperity, creating new industries along with groundbreaking products and services. Yet, despite government investment in scientific research running into billions of pounds, a growing number of high-tech ventures in the UK are failing to commercialise their science effectively. Many don't understand that introducing design into the early stages of their businesses would give their chances of long-term commercial success a powerful boost.
What we do in kinetic nanomaterials is make ultra-fine powders. These materials have been around for quite a long time already. In your laser toner cartridges, in sunscreens and things like that, they're using these materials now.
As you've already seen, what we manufacture is so small you cannot see it. So how can design influence what we do in terms of a company?
Oxford Biosensors works in the medical diagnostic area. Basically, it was founded on the premise of why should we just look at one parameter in a blood sample? Doctors and nurses really want to look at a number of parameters.
I've been in a startup before, and it's a sprint for the finish line, often with funding. All sorts of things can deflect you from the process.
Ceres Power is a company that deals with platform technologies, specifically to do with energy production devices called fuel cells.
There's a team of about 4 or 5 whose job is to actually make the fuel cells. The beautiful thing about a fuel cell is it will just keep going forever.
What is typically done in the technology area is that people have these great ideas, great technology cell, and they build it up to a certain size, then go into the marketplace, say, hey, isn't it wonderful? And they wonder why it is that the customers don't come flocking to the door.
It seems to me that there's some fundamental injustice going on in terms of there's a bunch of tricks that the big corporations are able to use and deploy. And I think it gives them a really unfair advantage. And I think some of the things that we can do are pretty simple, could be affordable, and could really kind of redress the balance a little bit.
Humanising Technology has involved the Design Council in assisting 8 early-stage high-tech companies to move from laboratory to marketplace.
Well, while we got involved, we were intrigued as to exactly what this initiative could do for us. What we found very rapidly, though, was that this wasn't just about the obvious parts of design in terms of graphics, in terms of the design of a product. It was much more all-inclusive in the whole company.
We really got involved because we were actually looking at putting out our first product to market, and we thought anything that could really help us in terms of expertise or understanding for the small company in any way whatsoever would be a good thing to do.
When the Humanising Technology group came to see us here in Crawley, they spent 2 days with the company, and there were 4 people that came down. There was a mentor from the Design Council and 3 consultants, 2 of them on the design side, and one of them was a business consultant that came along.
The initial kind of connection with each other was basically a 2-day process, and the first day was listening.
They got a flavour of the personnel, the setup of the company, what it is that we're about basically, and particularly the layout of the company as you see here.
We went through everything that we were involved in terms of the technology, what we do in terms of the processing. I mean, one of the things we showed them on that would be actually how we print the electrodes themselves, and then taking them all the way through the stages, through to the testing in the lab.
On the second day, we got back together and we had a more robust discussion about the kinds of ideas. And what we're really trying to do is develop a kind of a team's point of view about what we thought the opportunities were and how design or design activities might help.
The second day was then more of a reflection from them, looking at what it is that we're trying to do, but from their perspective, which is very interesting for a company like us, because it's so early on in our development. It's very interesting to have a mirror held up to see what it is that we're actually trying to do, and seeing if that's reflected to the outside world. And they came up with some very interesting points as a result of that. They also gave a feedback session at the end where we had the whole of the company assembled in front of them, and they held up this mirror and said, "This is what we believe you're about." And there were some very poignant points that came across, some very good criticism and some very positive points as well. There was nothing that was earth-shattering as far as we're concerned, but as a result of that we've implemented a number of changes that we believe is actually going to help us actually humanise technology, if you like, within the company.
a very important part of it is creating the shared space and enough comfort levels for people to be able to feel free to disclose anything, whether it's fears or worries or whatever like that. So you're getting out of a position where everybody's on their professional best behaviour and suddenly everybody's improvising and getting to that position. Once you've got that, then you've got the conditions for breakthrough, discovery, innovation.
The designers that came and saw us as part of Humanising Technology were interesting. We didn't expect them to be as good as they were. They were enthusiastic. They very rapidly understood how our business worked and what our business was. And we were able to start getting value from them very early on in the process, much earlier than either myself or Mike had anticipated.
I think we did end up with some people who were a pleasant mix of sceptical, but also intrigued and willing to go somewhere else, in as much as that a lot of the problem, you know, clearly when you come with new ideas, whatever profession it is, if the recipient isn't open to that, it's much more challenging in order to get that input inside. And so that by virtue of them signing up to the process, it felt like they were of the right spirit.
Oxford Biosensors had a prototype that they were working on.
It's a point-of-care device, which is basically a medical diagnostic device that's used by the patient bedsides.
And a number of assumptions were kind of built into the prototype already, and they hadn't shown it to anybody. And we said, don't just take this prototype and show it to people, show it to end users, because you want to engage the end users' fantasies about what it might be.
We did some focus group work in terms of where we had some concepts put together. We wanted to go out and speak to the users themselves in terms of, you know, not just do you like them, but trying to get information from them in terms of, you know, how they would go about using them.
In their case, they've got a strip and a kind of a PDA type device. And immediately it's in the left hand and it's this, and oh, and it's so, you know, you're confirming, oh, it's a two-handed operation, and whether they shove it in here or shove it in here or shove it in the top, or imagine a door opening in it and pressing it in like a SIM card or something like that.
It was to try and make sure that we got their ideas, the user's ideas, rather than, you know, say giving a yes or no answer. Do you like this? Yes. But what do you like about it? And this is what I like about it. But or not them just mirroring what we want to hear.
You're giving them a little clue. You're giving them just enough to engage their imaginations and get them to tell you what's going on.
One of the things we've implemented now is actually speaking to our customers and trying to get to know their end user needs and try and feed that right the way back into the laboratory, so we're much better prepared for the customer and they see us as a value add rather than the sheer cost involved in just buying a fuel cell. We're actually buying a service to deliver that to their customer base.
And we're beginning to find that we're applying it to all stages of our business, not just the actual particles themselves that we manufacture, but the process, our marketing, the actual structure of the company and how we design the company. All of it is being affected because everyone in the company has been part of this process.
There's a lot of talent in Britain, a hell of a lot of talent in a whole bunch of different fields, and normally those fields don't get to play together. For instance, the scientists, they're all in science parks, and normally designers wouldn't get access to them. And the same, you know, designers are all in ghettos as well, like Hoxton. And it's kind of trying to get a number of different disciplines together to play together that makes something like this project quite unique for this country.
The positive outlook on the future is that if we can help the businesses that have just been grown to learn to kind of almost build the capabilities very early on, then they'll be able to reap those benefits kind of 4 or 5 years down the line, you know, kind of 10-fold, 100-fold.
Within a short period, Humanising Technology is already producing fundamental changes in business culture, behaviour and financial priorities.
I think the culture's changing for the better, that people are getting a broader understanding of what their roles are within the company in a strategic sense rather than as a departmental activity. We saw design as just a simple part of the process of product launch from concept to embodiment. Having got involved with the Design Council, we now see that the value of design is much broader than that, because we can solve some of the issues that actually create us problems in customer support and after sales. The kind of feedback we get at that stage from customers, we're now learning to anticipate in the design process before the products actually get designed and released.
We're beginning to take some different decisions already as a result of the input from the design review that we went through a few months ago. We are beginning to think about the structure of the business and the connections between the business and its products. In many ways they reflect each other, and that's new to us and we hadn't thought about that before.
I've now assigned more of a budget for things like looking at user interfaces than I was planning to, based on some of the feedback I've had.
So you're spending more on design as a result of humanising technology?
Yes, and probably more importantly, shifting where the spend is going to be into right up front.
What do you think would have happened if you hadn't got involved in humanising technology?
I think we would have run the risk that the product might not be easy to use in its first generation, and that's possibly quite damaging, because I think when our product arrives it will make a bit of a splash as the first type of well-being or healthcare product of its kind.
Over the next few years, more early-stage technology companies across the UK will benefit from the Humanising Technology initiative, improving their chances of commercial success within an increasingly competitive global economy.